Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Babish. We're doing something a little bit different today. I just launched my new podcast, In the Booth with Babish. Check it out now if you haven't already. It's on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Every episode, I interview a celebrity guest and surprise them with my iteration of one of their favorite foods. And tomorrow, I've got the one and only Gustavo Tosta, aka Guga, headed here, and I need to impress him. And amongst the favorite foods that he listed were coxinha, or coxinha, or coxinha, or something else entirely. It is a deep fried potato croquette, very popular Brazilian street snack served with a cold beer, stuffed with things like spiced chicken, cream cheese, tomatoes, all them kinds of stuff. And I want to surprise Guga with a piping hot, fresh batch when he gets here at the ass crack of dawn tomorrow morning. That's not what 9:30 is, but that's what it is to me. So I'm gonna try out a new format today. It's gonna be halfway between the content that we've been doing recently and the cook-alongs, which I've seen a lot of wonderful feedback on. Thank you so much for the comments and the posts on Reddit about how much you love the cook-alongs. I've been wanting to bring them back. So we're gonna do kind of a halfway point here where I'm not gonna cook in absolutely real time. We're gonna throw some little bit of music in there. We're gonna cut it down a little bit. But for the most part, if you wanted to make this, you could probably do it along with me as long as you pause every once in a while.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. They've supported this channel for over 7 years. In fact, they were my first ever sponsor. Squarespace is the perfect platform to create your own site and accomplish your goals online. Whether you're building a digital empire or just want people to give you hilarious episode ideas, Squarespace has you covered. I'm having a lot of fun making food ranking videos, and my favorite part is seeing what you guys suggest. So I built a site where you can submit your episode ideas. Go to rankedwithbabish.com and submit yours, and coming soon, you can see all my ranked lists. Squarespace's brand new designer templates make it so easy to set up exactly what you need. To create one of your own, head to squarespace.com for a free trial and use code Babish for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Where do we start? That's an excellent question. Me? Probably the filling. The typical filling for coxinha is chicken. Spiced chicken with cream cheese, sometimes some veggies thrown in there, but usually it's just a nice spiced chicken. Now most recipes call for dropping the breasts in some chicken stock, covering and boiling until it's done, which is gonna dry out the chicken pretty hardcore. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna butterfly these chicken breasts, meaning I'm gonna cut them in half widthwise? Yes, widthwise. I'm gonna cut them straight through so we have two halves of two breasts that are much thinner than the original. And I'm gonna pound them out a little bit just to get them down to an even thickness. Just grab a nice fry pan. That's the fry pan version of saucepan. I'm just pounding them out just a little bit. The thicker ones in particular. Just until everybody is at a uniform, let's say 1 to 2 centimeter thickness. This is going to help them cook much more quickly at a lower temperature, which is going to prevent them from drying out. Now, I'm going to do a very gentle poach on these guys using a technique that's kind of like a cheater's sous vide. Basically, you bring water, or in this case chicken stock, up to a near boil, just shy of 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You add the chicken, cover the whole thing, and let it sit, let the residual heat, the carryover heat, cook the chicken. This prevents the muscle fibers from seizing up the way they do when you cook chicken hot and fast. So it's gonna lose less moisture, it's gonna be more tender, it's gonna be more juicy. Now for our filling, we also need, I can do this, I can be cool. For our filling, we also need a finely chopped onion. I wish it were cool, but it wasn't. Like I said, this might be a halfway point between our normal programming and a cook-along. So that means taking in the quiet moments as well. If there weren't a cadre of screaming children outside, I don't know if you can hear that. One of the most important tools you can have in the kitchen, garbage bowl. If your garbage is not physically near you in the kitchen, this is a lifesaver. It does not need to be a very fine dice. We do want the characteristics of chunks of onion in our filling. So you can really go with more of a rough chop. Now you might be wondering, hey, I thought you said that Guga was coming tomorrow. Well, he is. One of the beauties apparently of coxinha is that you can make it ahead of time. So I'm gonna assemble these, not bread them just yet, but assemble them with the dough, and then bread them in the morning and fry them before he gets here. I don't know if it's a breakfast snack, but Feels like it will be. It feels like it, well, you're supposed to drink it with a cold beer. So yeah, it's probably a breakfast snack. Plus we're gonna need 4 minced cloves of garlic. So if you are new to cooking at all, garlic can be a tricky bastard. It definitely tricked me a lot when I was a youngin' in the kitchen. And I think that you should do, when you're dealing with garlic, you should sort of deal with it in stages. You remove the cloves and get as much excess skin off as you can, because the skin is tough and papery. You don't want it to end up in your final garlic, and garlic is very sticky. So if there's any skin present in the area, it's going to stick to it. So this now over here is gonna be my smashing station. So I'm gonna chop off the root of the clove, the flat side of the bottom of the clove, chop that off, give it a little tappy, tap, tap, taparoo. At which point, well, not quite, a little more tap. You don't want to smash it entirely, but you want to smash it just enough so that the surface tension of the skin around the meat of the clove kind of releases. So that way you end up with, boop, naked clove. Now I'm moving that over there where it can't come into contact with any of this nasty paper. And I'm moving that out of the way so that my newly exposed clove won't get sullied by it. I used to find peeling and chopping garlic a pretty annoying activity, and I still do. I still do, to some extent. But if I ever just stop and focus in, sort of, you know, concentrate entirely on the task at hand instead of thinking about what I need to do next, that's when garlic gets frustrating, is when you're thinking like, I got other stuff to do, this is sticky, this is nasty, these are being difficult. That's when garlic gets tricky. But if you just sort of zone in on it and be like, this is all I'm doing right now is garlic. That is my life right now is garlic. It actually becomes pretty nice. So you can see we have a sprout. It's trying to grow more garlic, okay? That's really what's happening. So what we're gonna do is smash it. We have to smash it anyway. And we're gonna pull that out because it can be bitter. And it doesn't look very nice either. You don't want green in your garlic unless you're dealing with green garlic. And ideally, we're really kind of smashing these guys. I mean, maybe not that hard because I'm sending garlic flying everywhere. I'm trying to be Isaac Toops over here. Maybe instead, you want to give it some more controlled smashies. There we go. Now we have some pretty smashed up garlic, which means we can kind of just run our knife through it a few times and it'll be roughly chopped. If we run our knife through it a few more times, it'll be finely chopped. And that's how you chop garlic. All right, there's our garlic. All right, so over on the stove, I have a quart of chicken stock, in this case, better than bouillon, because true to its name, it is better than bouillon. It is, and it's also better than most boxed stocks. And it has a delightfully yellow color to it, like an almost artificial yellow, which in some cases I really like. In this case, by adding it to our coxinha dough, it's going to lend a really nice bright color to it, which the more color we can inject into things, the better. So I have this at a gentle simmer. So now I'm going to lower in my butterflied chicken breasts, and then I'm gonna kill the heat, cover this up, and let it sit for probably 10, 15 minutes until the chicken registers about 155 degrees Fahrenheit. The next thing we need to get ready is our potato. Traditionally, this is a potato-based croquette dough. Modern iterations tend to go flour, water, milk, but we're gonna go the old-fashioned way, and that is with tater. I have a medium Yukon Gold here that I'm gonna peel and cut into 1-inch chunks. Best way to cut potatoes in 1-inch pieces is to cut them into 1-inch thick planks and then chop those X and Y axis into 1-inch pieces. 1-inch, that's well shy of 1 inch. We're going for like 3/4 of an inch pieces. Really what matters most is that they're evenly sized so that they cook at a similar rate. And small's better. We're going for a mash here, so we don't need to worry about like maintaining the potatoes' propriety. Shove all those into a little saucepan. Cover them with just enough cold water to cover them, and bring them to a simmer. Let them cook until completely tender all the way through. Time to check on our chicken temperature. 155, that's the way, I like it. Lightly salt the water. Doesn't hurt to season every aspect of the thing that you're cooking. You want seasoning throughout, so that way you're not taking bites and some parts are seasoned and other parts aren't, having to compensate for each other. Season throughout as much as you can. We're shredding this chicken, so we want to let it cool completely. If we shred it right now, we're going to experience a lot of moisture loss, so let it cool to like room temp before you start shredding. All right, it's been about 13 minutes and our potatoes are just about done. You can tell when they're done when you can very easily pierce one with a paring knife or a butter knife, but also when the outside edges start getting a little roughed up. They're not so crisp and perfect. That means that we've got them in a really well-cooked state, which is where we want them, because ideally you want to do the next step with a potato ricer. I can't find mine for like the 4th time. I don't know where it keeps going. I don't know how I can lose something as big and as distinct as a potato ricer, but I have and continue to do so. So I'm just gonna thoroughly mash them. Worst case, if I still got some chunks in there, I might blitz it with my immersion blender, make sure it gets perfectly smooth. But if you don't have a ricer or an immersion blender, your best bet is to really overcook the potatoes. Not waterlog them, but just like get them very, very tender so that there's no chance any chunks are sticking around after some, cursory mixing. My edges are getting nice and roughed up. The potatoes aren't falling apart, but they're super duper tender, right where I wanna be. So I'm gonna drain them real quick. Then I should have been cooking these potatoes in a much larger pan because as it turns out, we're both mashing and building the dough in this pan. So, get those potatoes back in the pan over low heat. Commence to mashing. I always undercook potatoes. I think I got them right this time, but I always undercook them when I'm doing a mash, and I need them to be particularly cooked. I'm going to add about a cup of our reserved chicken stock. I'm gonna start with just shy of a cup because I don't want to overdo things. We can always add moisture, we can't take it away. I'm gonna mash that up together to make sure I've caught all the big chunks. And I haven't, so I'm gonna immersion blend this a little bit real quick. Normally we'd have to worry about starches, but since Yukon Golds are a pretty low starch potato, we shouldn't have to worry about like gloopy strands of starch starting to form, the way they might with russets. I'm adding 1 cup of milk and 2 tablespoons of butter. We'll bring that up to a simmer. Now we're gonna add 225 grams of flour. This is extremely precise. I'd go for just shy of 2 cups, basically. We're looking for about a 2-to-1 ratio by weight of liquid to flour, plus the potato, of course. Does that make any sense? Just add 2 cups of flour. If it's too dry, add more liquid. Once this reaches a simmer, we're gonna add our flour and keep things simmering because this dough is par cooked, not unlike a shoe dough. Just mix everything together. Turn the heat down to like medium low. And then we're gonna cook this for about 5 minutes until we have a nice thick ball of dough. Just keep folding it together, make sure that there's no patches of dry flour. And cook it for about 5 minutes. You want it to thicken up, you want it to turn into a cohesive dough, and you want it to be sticking to the bottom of the pan, just like a shoe. Maybe sift your flour. I'm seeing a couple lumps of flour that I'm hoping I can mash out of there, but it looks like they're dispersing. If there's patches of dry flour, if you feel like it's too firm to mix, add some more liquid, but I think this is just about the perfect texture that we're looking for. You can see it's sticking to the bottom of the pot a little bit, but it's not sticking to my spat at all. So it's not too wet, it's not too sticky. And the most important thing here is flipping the dough onto itself. You'll see that I'm scooping up underneath the dough and folding it down onto itself. That's making sure that we're exposing as much of the dough as possible to the heat source and not just cooking half of it. All right, that's looking just about right. It's pulling away from the sides of the pan. It's not sticky at all. So now we need to let it cool. Let's scoop this out, plop into a bowl. I'm going with a light metal bowl because this will help disseminate the heat more quickly. If you go with something thick or glass or something like that, it's gonna trap the heat in longer. Now I'm just gonna cover it directly down onto the dough with a little bit of plastic wrap. This is gonna make it cool off more slowly, but we don't want it to dry out. If it's exposed directly to the air, it's gonna dry out. So now we're gonna let this cool, not completely, you just want it to be handleable, you don't want it to melt the filling. Probably 20, 30 minutes. Last up, we gotta finish our filling into a nonstick skillet. Dropping about 2 tablespoons of butter. Meanwhile, I've got the chicken breasts over here. They've cooled completely, so now it's time to shred. You could throw these guys in a stand mixer and beat it with a paddle, and that'll shred it pretty quick, pretty efficiently, but I don't know, sometimes it feels good to do it by hand. Really just down into little bite-sized pieces. It doesn't have to be like, you know, pulp. There's a little bit of connective tissue, a little hunk of fat and connective tissue at the base of the back of every chicken breast, so make sure you pull that off just because it's tough, unpleasant. This little guy. Probably not gonna say anything because this is a pretty boring process. But that's what I like about boring processes. This is a good time to remind ourselves that we feel the need to be so constantly, unendingly productive all the time, to the point where if we're not being productive while we're being productive, in other words, if I'm not listening to an audiobook or, you know, having my emails read to me or listening to a podcast while I do this, I'm wasting time. But that isn't true. First off, you can't waste time. I've always felt worthless if I'm not generating worth all the time, if I'm not generating value or an end product or result all the time. And sometimes you need to take a quick step back and focus on the process itself, because not only does it imbue your doing with a much better focus and quality of doing, but it also becomes a relaxing and meditative experience. Like you start to hear where your mind wanders, you catch it, you bring it back, it's right here. You might start thinking about work or what you're gonna say to so-and-so about such and such. But remember that you're here right now, and you're shredding chicken. That's what's going on. Everything else is literally an illusion. Whatever you imagine is happening with your coworker or your kids or your spouse or whatever, your sister, is an illusion because it's what you're imagining, and life so rarely turns out the way we imagine it's going to. If you don't believe me, next time you have a difficult thing coming up, write down how you think it's gonna go and then compare how it actually goes with your notes. I think we could all stand to take things a little slower and to do things a little bit more intentionally. I know that these are wellness, mindfulness buzzwords that get thrown around a lot. And it's very hard to put them into practice because you think, oh, I need an app, and or I need a life coach, or I need a guru, or I need to read books or whatever. But really, it all comes down to simple things like this, like being present for whatever it is that you are doing in this moment. This is what happens if, you know, I'm allowed to do something meditative where I still am trying to be entertaining and present for you guys, is I'll end up waxing poetic and talking about philosophy. I also want to say that I'm not an authority on the subject, like, and nobody really is. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the individual search for meaning and purpose, is that there's no book for it. There are books for it, but none of them apply to you specifically, only you do. These are signposts. All words are signposts that point to the truth. None of them are actually the truth. There's an old Buddhist idea that words and concepts like these are fingers pointed at the moon. They are not the moon. So anything anybody ever tells you is not the moon. It's a finger pointing to the moon. Anyway, enough of that. I'm placing our butter over medium heat, getting it nice and melted till foaming subsides, then adding our onion and cooking for about 5 minutes until well sauteed. That wasn't heated up, not nearly enough. There's an onion skin. That's embarrassing. I thought that butter was better preheated, but it was not. Ideally, you want to hear this sound as soon as the onions hit the pan. Get some good sizzle going. Picking up some nice color. These guys are nice and soft, well sauteed. So now, turn down the heat a bit. I'm gonna add the garlic, sweat that for about a minute just to get those flavors up and at them. Wow, that smells good. I mean, it's just, isn't that weird whenever I'm cooking something that's just onions and garlic, people will be like, oh, that smells good. And I'll be like, yeah, it's onions and garlic. Like, as though I don't deserve the credit for like the fact that it smells good. Now, I'm just gonna add a little bit of paprika. It's gonna add flavor, of course, but it's also gonna add a bit more of a dramatic color. Let's call that a 1/4 teaspoon. Let that toast a little bit, wake up its flavor. I'm gonna kill the heat. I'm gonna let the sizzling die down for a sec. Now at this point, I'm also gonna add a little, oh, okay. I'll get the stuff that landed on my finger. A little bit of cayenne pepper. I'm not doing that on the heat, otherwise we will aerosolize the capsaicin and the air will become spicy and I'll be coughing the rest of the day when I'm trying to talk to you. So add that pretty much off heat. Now I have 4 ounces of room temperature cream cheese that I'm going to, it's cut into cubes so it can melt a little bit more easily. I'm gonna add that in, mix it in until it's melted. Might need a little bit more heat actually. So yeah, if it's not melting, just throw it back over very low heat. Keep stirring it until we have a nice, smooth, well, not smooth mixture, but there's no more chunks of cream cheese left. All right, I like the way that looks. So now I'm gonna add our shredded chicken. Not cooking it, just gonna warm it through a little bit. Or you could wait until this cools completely just so you're not warming anything, but there's so much chicken, it's probably gonna chill out the heat pretty quickly. Also, now's a good time to do an initial seasoning. Salt, freshly ground black pepper. Mix that in. Let's give it a little taste for seasoning. Nice, perfect. Now that it's pretty much completely cooled off, I'm going to add some thinly sliced scallion greens. The greens of 3 scallions here. And I'm just gonna chop up some parsley as well. Try to remove the big stems, but it's not a big deal. I still wanna see like leaf shapes, but I don't want any whole leaves, if that makes any sense. There we go, mix all that up. And that is our coxinha filling. Let's give that one last taste, just because we're curious little kittens. Oh, that's great. I mean, it's very simple, but it's really good. You can see how that's gonna be a really great filling. I almost forgot. You're supposed to add some poultry seasoning. Now, I think that my paprika and cayenne are plenty in terms of flavor. The whole thing is extremely flavorful, but I can imagine this is only gonna help. Is this just loose powder in a box? Because no. This is just loose powder in a box. Oh my God, I've never seen a spice in a box like this. This is like a box of raisins, but it's full of just spice powder. So this is a mixture of rosemary, oregano, sage, ginger, marjoram, thyme, and pepper. Pretty much everything we don't have, and there's no salt in it, so I can be a little liberal with it. Why don't we do like that? That's probably a 1/2 to 1/4 of a teaspoon. Just enough to be like, what's that? What is that? There's something in the chicken. What is that? That's what I want. That's what I want Gugu to say. I want him to sound exactly like that. That's a really nice addition. Just wakes everything up a little bit more. A teensy bit more salt. And a teensy bit more of this poultry seasoning. So let's call that a 1/2 teaspoon total. This is fantastic on its own, but just wait until it's wrapped up in a crispy, toothsome croquette. Next and last, we're gonna make an optional dipping sauce called Bolero Rosé. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. Sorry. This is a 2-to-1 mixture of mayonnaise to ketchup. It's basically a Brazilian fancy sauce. I'm going with about a quarter cup of mayo to 2 tablespoons of ketchup, into which I'm going to grate 1 small clove of garlic, or in this case, half a large clove of garlic. About 1 teaspoon of lime juice. Normally I go fresh, but all I had was bottled. And to this, I'm gonna add a quarter teaspoon of cumin. And normally you'd add some red pepper flakes, but I have this chile de árbol powder, which is gonna make it nice and spicy. So like between an eighth to let's do an eighth of a tablespoon of that. It's gonna be quite spicy. A little pinch of salt. Go ahead and tiny whisk to combine. And there you have it. Like I said, it's pretty much just a Brazilian special sauce. It's a good thing I'm making this the night before because all the flavors are going to mellow and get to know each other. This is the kind of sauce that is best after a night in the fridge, just like special sauce. Oh, that's gonna be nice, drizzled on some deep fried coxinhas. Coxinhas. All right, our dough has cooled to the point where it's at least handleable, and we're ready to start forming these guys. So I'm gonna basically pinch off like a golf ball sized amount, start flattening that into a big old disc. I'm basically pressing that out until it's about a, half a centimeter thick. Then I'm gonna grab like, I don't know, let's say 2 tablespoons of filling, like that, and just sort of start wrapping it up and around. There we go. Making sure there's no gaps, especially in the side of the pastry, but also toward the top. Here, I'll do a close-up roll so you see what I'm doing. Basically forming this into a little pyramid, and then once we have a bunch of extra dough at the top, we're just pinching it off, just like that. Add it back to the dough. Finish shaping this into, so it's a little bit more conical. Any gaps you see like these guys, we need to sort of lift and press over, seal those shut, make sure that they don't open during the frying process. We want them to be able to stand up, be lightly conical in shape, just like that. I'm gonna hit this pan with a little bit of oil just to hold my parchment in place. Press it down, get it flush. Now it's not going anywhere. I also think these are supposed to be a little bit bigger, so this is a good first test run. And this is exactly where I want the dough to be. It is not sticky at all, but it's soft and supple, and if I go like this, it'll stick a little bit, but it's not like coming apart or sticking to my hands. It should come off your hands cleanly. Grab our little tablespoon of filling. Press it down in, stretch the croquette dough up and around, and pinch. And that is all there is to it. Just gonna make sure that there's no gaps, press those shut, and just like last time, we are gonna pinch off the excess on the top, just like that. There we go. That one's a little bigger. And now just rinse and repeat until you're out of stuff. All right, there we go. I'm going to grab a few of these, probably my smaller ones look good. I'm gonna grab some of my bigger ones, I guess. And these are gonna be my testes. Now these guys, I'm going to wrap tightly with plastic wrap. What I'm gonna try to do is do 1 sheet of plastic wrap where I'm pressing it down in to be almost flush with the outside of the coxinhas. These guys are headed into the fridge. Meanwhile, I'm going to do a test fry on these 3 little. So next up for the breading process, lots of different recipes use different techniques for this. Some will just use water and breadcrumbs, others a mixture of cornstarch and water, and plenty also use eggs. I'm gonna start with eggs for these experiments, but apparently if they're browning too quickly, that could be your oil being too hot, but if your oil's at the right temperature, they're still browning too quickly, try using water or water and cornstarch. They won't brown so fast. As ever when beating eggs, I'm adding a little tiny splash of water, a little pinch of salt. It helps them beat up smoother with no streaks of yolk or white, which can ruin your breading. Then in a larger bowl, just so I can toss them around, I've got some plain breadcrumbs. I'm gonna season the breadcrumbs a little bit, always a good idea. Now all we gotta do is grab our coxinhas. What the f is wrong with me? Coxinhas. And roll them first in the egg. Make sure that that is thoroughly coated. Drop them in the breadcrumbs. You want to do the wet hand, dry hand technique. Now the good thing about a bowl like this is you can really kind of toss them around, give them an initial coat. You can then sort of press in, keep your dry hand dry. I have these backwards, so that's dumb. Why don't I just flip these around? It's like it never happened. And I think I am gonna double these up just in case there's gaps in the dough or anything. I wanna make sure that we have a really robust coating. I can't remember the last time I've ever double breaded something and regretted it, so that's another strong argument. I do think if you are right-handed, you should do the dry with your right hand. It requires a little bit more kind of subtlety that I'm not able to do with my left hand, so use your dominant hand for the dry and your submissive hand for the wet. All right, our fry oil is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it's time to go. Drop them in very carefully. And keep moving a little bit, like that one's not fully submerged. You want like, 3 to 4 inches of fry oil more if yours are bigger than mine, so that they're completely submerged and so that they don't rest too long on the bottom of the pot, because they will scorch. You can already see a scorch mark right there from where it hit the bottom of the pot. Wow, aren't those just charming in shape and nature? I sure do like the look of those. I don't know whose idea it was to make them sort of teardrop shaped like that, or drumstick shaped, depending on who was naming these. But I'll tell you, they were having a good time. Okay, all right, these guys are cracking open. That's interesting. The filling didn't come out, but the dough expanded. Curious where the temp ended up inside of these. 92, that's not right. Okay, that must have been too hot, because that expanded like crazy. Just breading up one more. I want to see if this guy stays together at 325 degrees instead of 350. It also browned way too quickly. It was browning, and I know I just said if it's browning too quick, try the water method. So that's probably what I'll try next. If this cracks open, I'll try the water, maybe the cornstarch method. I like the look of that. Crack. Damn it. It's still 97 degrees in there, so it's not the moisture of the filling breaking out, it is the dough itself. Looking pretty good. That's gonna be great when it's actually done. I think I need to try the water method. Let's see if that works any better. Just straight up water. This feels weird, but I'm gonna do it. Straight up water. That's what I said when I was losing my virginity, am I right? Toss in the crumbs. Maybe the second layer is what's screwing me too. Like, oh no, let's just do one. Let's just do one and see what that does, okay? No big deal. Let's have a good time. It's definitely a lot more bubbly. I guess it's because the potato itself is frying as well as the breadcrumbs. So as long as the potato doesn't crack open, I feel like this should work. The egg might have created, especially the double breading, the egg might have created too solid of a scaffolding that once the potato started to expand at all, it just broke it. So I'm hoping now that since basically the potato itself is frying, that it won't break out of it. And like, I don't know what it would break out of. Fingers crossed. I mean, it's looking gorgeous. I think this is the pull point right here. Up in there. Yeah, 155 at the thickest point. That's freaking perfect. Let's chop it open and take a look. I'll try to get through the tip here without crushing it. There we go. Chop. Look at that. Steaming hot. Beautiful, chock full of chicken. Smells very good. God, that's good. God, it's hot. Croquettes are often cut with bechamel to make them creamy. And not only the cream cheese, but also just the nature of the dough itself creates that texture in these croquettes. And the outside is so glassy crisp, it's not breaking open. So, okay, that's the fix, water. The spices are just perfect. Like, I'm really happy I added that paprika and that cayenne, but the poultry seasoning, it's both really balanced and just fits right in there exactly right, and it's also very familiar. You know, it's poultry seasoning, so it's the same stuff you put on the turkey at Thanksgiving. It's the same stuff you put in other stuff. And it's very, very familiar, but it just plays so nicely in this. And the fresh parsley, fresh scallions, they give that nice nightshade bite, if you will. Okay, Guga. Well, folks, there you have it. That's how you make coxinhas, Brazil's most popular street snack. I think they are pants on head delicious, but if you want to see what Guga thinks of them, you're gonna have to tune into my new podcast, In the Booth with Babish. Literally filming tomorrow with these very coxinhas. So we'll see what he thinks. Tune in to find out.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me as I experiment and try new formats. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you try these for yourself because they're really good and they're not that hard to make. And I hope you do it with Babish. That's the name of the show, With Babish, and I'm Babish. So doesn't really need explanation, does it?
Thanks again to my long-term partner Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to head to rankedwithbabish.com to submit your ideas for what you think I should rank next or who you want to see as a guest. While you're there, admire the smooth template designed by Squarespace. If you feel stuck creating your website, Squarespace can definitely help. In just one click, you can choose from curated color palettes and fonts that can be applied to any template. You can create an entire site in just a few minutes. Their SEO tools help your site reach its audience, and you can use Squarespace to help manage your invoices for commerce or even generate your business name. The tools are all easy to use and at your fingertips. To create a site of your own, head to squarespace.com for a free trial and use code BABISH for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.